One? Just a few. There's no determination here. I'm not even making a point. I just want to see, because it's one of the things that we're talking about. Now, before we actually get started talking, I want you to take out your phones. I don't know if you get a good signal in here or not. AT&T put up a new tower. Well, I'm actually getting 3 bars. If you have not, there's a couple things I want you to do online so we can communicate and so you can help us with what we're trying to do in the community. We have a new Facebook page called For Pulaski. You'll hear us talk a lot more about For Pulaski. But I want you to like that page. If you can get there quickly and do it, if you want to take a picture of that screen, do it later, fine. But I want to make sure that everybody likes the For Pulaski page and likes the Stonebrooke Facebook page. And then if you're on Instagram, like all the cool kids, how many Instagrammers do we have? Let's see, how many Instagrammers? Well, see, that's quite a few. Sorry, younger people, the old people are taking over Instagram like everything else. How about TikTokers? Do we have TikTok people? See, the older people are taking that over as well. But Stonebrooke doesn't have a TikTok yet, but it's coming, I'm sure. But follow us on Stonebrooke.Pulaski is on Instagram. If you want, one thing that we're doing here, this meeting is about people that want to serve and help us start this new thing that we're doing here at Stonebrooke. And we call the people that serve here the Dream Team. And we would love for you to go to the Facebook page, it's a group, Facebook group, Stonebrooke Dream Team, SB Dream Team it's called, and join the Dream Team. We'll approve you if you ask to join. There's another Facebook group called Keep It Local for Pulaski. That was started by Lisa V. There she is. There's Lisa. And she has done, it's a Facebook group that talks about all kinds of things that are going on in the community, and it features businesses, especially in organizations. And Lisa has done an amazing job with that. It's got about 5,500 members, and we are taking it over. It will eventually be just called For Pulaski. The For Pulaski group where we can communicate with the community and just interact with and feature businesses and other organizations that are doing things in our town. So I put Join SB Dream Team Facebook group twice because it's just that important. So if this isn't a sermon, by the way, if this gets boring after a while for you, take care of some of those things. Nobody will be upset with you for being on your phone, because this is not. What is this not? It's not church. It's not a church service. It's just us hanging out, talking about this brand new thing. And for those of you that were here, where do I even look? Is this the camera where I look at now, Milton? Used to. I looked right there when I wanted to talk online. Huh? Okay. If you're watching online, there we are over here. This is really cool. If you're watching online, thanks for being with us online. If you weren't here last time, there's a video on the Stonebrooke's Facebook group. You should be part of Stonebrooke's Facebook group that you can watch from last time, but I want to catch people up to speed, but then go a little deeper into what we're talking about. But this is an entirely different concept from just what people think of as church. And I want to sort of address a few things. Some people, Stonebrookers, were a little upset at me, not very many, but some voiced their concern, and it's valid, that COVID hit and we weren't meeting and we didn't know what was going on, and we just sort of felt abandoned. We just sort of felt like, man, what is it that's going to happen? We're just sort of hanging out here, flapping in the breeze. We don't know what's going to go on. And that's a very valid concern. It's very right, and I'm in one sense very sorry for that, but there's a reason why. It has to do with something that happened to the Apostle Paul, and this is just what I felt that I had to do. The Apostle Paul, if you don't know his history, he was at one time very contrary to the way of Jesus. He was going around putting Christians, Jesus followers, in prison and actually even killing some of them. And he had an experience with Jesus that revolutionized his life. And when he did that, in writing to one of the churches later, he said this: "Even before I was born, God chose me and called me by his marvelous grace. Then it pleased him to reveal his Son to me." Jesus actually appeared to Paul and said, "I have a job for you." Paul was zealous. He was going about trying to do everything he could, spending his own money, going from town to town, trying to find people gathered like this, talking about Jesus, Jewish people, and then dragging them back to Jerusalem and charging them with heresy and sometimes even having them killed. But Paul said, he revealed his Son to me, totally changed his life around, so that I would proclaim the good news about Jesus to the Gentiles. Anytime you read Gentiles in the New Testament, think outsiders. To the Jewish people, Gentiles were people who were outside of the grace of God, were outside of relationship with God, and frankly didn't even need to be addressed. They were simply people that were reprobate and that were doomed for whatever punishment there was to come, but they certainly weren't God people, so we just ignore them. This is what caused Paul such opposition in his efforts to reach them, is all the Jewish people thought, "You're a heretic. You're spending all your focus on these outsiders when they have nothing to do with God. They're outside of the ability to even have a relationship with God. You need to focus on us as Jews." But anyway, he said, God called me because he wanted to reach them. When this happened, I didn't rush out to consult with any human being. Now, here's what I've done my entire life. Are any of you kind of like entrepreneurial people? How many of you have ever started some type of business or anything like that? Cool. I don't know if you feel this. I have multiple businesses and organizations throughout my life, including Stonebrooke, and I always feel like, all I could hear was, "I always feel like somebody's watching me." Okay, little snippet of what goes through my head while I'm talking. You should see the way you guys look at me sometimes. But I've always felt like everyone else that does the thing that I'm wanting to do knows something I don't know. They know something better than me. There's a secret that they have, and so I need to study what they're doing to figure out what their secret is. When all along inside of me, I have a different idea. But I think, well, my different ideas couldn't work because I look around and nobody's doing my different idea. Therefore, I need to figure out what successful people at the thing I'm sort of thinking about doing are doing and do what they do. Well, Paul said, yeah, I didn't do that. He said because there were other people that were in the ministry trying to reach people. He said, I didn't go up to Jerusalem, that's where Peter and John and all the big guys were, to consult with those who were apostles before me, but instead I went away into Arabia. He went out into the desert. He actually spent 3 years there. This is sort of what, and I said this last time, it was fully my intention. We met here in May with some of the Dream Teamers, and in June it was fully my intention. Well, we're going to start this thing up for sure by Father's Day. Come on. And for sure by fall. But 2 things kept me from doing it. Number one, the way Stonebrooke was set up was to reach outsiders, and you had to have the children's area needed to be really big and going, and if it's not a large gathering where everything, if people have to wear masks and be separated, how's Stonebrooke going to be Stonebrooke? You know what I'm saying? So for that reason, but then inside of me, I kept thinking, I have this other idea. And boy, do I think it's a stupid idea. And I've spent literally decades studying other people and how they do church. And after decades, reading, I don't know, hundreds of books, I could have bought multiple houses on the money I've spent on conferences, going and trying to learn. I don't like any of it. I'm not mad at them. I'm not saying they're not doing good things. I just don't like it. And it bothers me. So what I did, and I'm going to go way past my time on this first part, so we're just going to be informal today. But so what I felt like I needed to do was go away to Arabia. I needed to just not talk to anybody, go spend some time with God. And when Paul did that, that's when he really understood who Jesus was and went about starting these little gatherings all over the Mediterranean rim and revolutionized the world. But I want you to know that I understand those of you that were thinking, man, where'd you go? What are we doing? Well, my answer, if you would have seen me then, well, I sure as heck don't know. But I'm trying to find out. And what I did was I went away. I didn't go anywhere. We didn't have to go anywhere. We couldn't go anywhere. I just spent some time trying to figure out, God, what in the world do you want? And actually, when Jesus appeared to Paul on the road to Damascus, the first thing Paul said was, "Who are you, Lord?" And that is something that I'm having a hard time, I'm not crying this morning. I really spent time figuring out, who is this Jesus person and what in the world does he want? And Jesus actually said to Paul, "Get up, go to the city, and it will be told you what you must do." He went to the city, met a guy named Ananias, and then he went away into Arabia, and Jesus showed him what to do. So I think Jesus has showed me some things that we need to do. And I want you to understand the reasoning behind what we're thinking. One of my favorite books is by a guy named Simon Sinek. You guys know Simon Sinek at all? You should read this book, Start With Why. And I want you to understand the why behind what we're doing. Now, there's a scripture in the book of Acts that Paul sort of expresses his heart. He said, "My life is worth nothing to me unless I use it for finishing the work assigned by the Lord Jesus." Paul said, I had an assignment from Jesus. And if I don't do that, the work of telling others the good news about the wonderful grace of God. Paul said, I believe that I have an assignment. And here's the thing that I want you to really get this morning. Everyone has that assignment. It's not just for professional Christians. It's not just for preachers standing on a stage. Every single Christian. Now, we have to have jobs. We have to raise kids. How many of you have a job and you're raising kids at the same time? It's horrible, isn't it? Don't you wish you could at least give up one? At certain times. I could do one or I could do the other. But man, this doing both at the same time and having to have money, it's just too much. And so our focus in life becomes, understandably, I'm trying to survive, I'm trying to do a job, I'm trying to go to school, I got to think about retirement. If you're in the military, you're constantly thinking about, wonder where they're going to send me and when. And so you have so many things, everything else on your mind. I want us to get that everyone, ultimately, above all of that, everyone has an assignment to share Jesus with the world. It's not just something we do on Sunday mornings. It's not just, well, I go to church. It's not just, well, I go to church every now and then. It's, I have this assignment, and it has to become something. And that's sort of what these gatherings are. Can a group of people come together that puts reaching others more than on a Sunday above everything else? And so these two words right here, everyone and multiply, will become huge, huge words that you'll hear us talk about a lot. It's the way that the early church reached the world. And that's one thing that I did all through September, all through October, and into November of last year, is really look at how Jesus prepared his followers to reach the world and then how they actually did it. And they didn't do it by building bigger and bigger and bigger buildings to have people meet in one time a week. Do you know what day did the early church meet on? Do you guys know? Huh? Uh-uh. The Jewish people met on Saturday, but these new Jesus followers, when did they meet? They met on Sunday morning. You guys are like, it's got to be a trick question. It can't be Sunday morning. They met on Sunday morning, but guess what Sunday morning was to them? It was a work day. It was their Monday. We're off on Sunday because we live in a place where Christianity has kind of taken over, but they're living in Israel. Sunday is the start of the work week. So they met at sunrise before they went to work. Don't you think we should do that? We should meet on Monday, about 5:30. You all start without me. I'll be there when I can. It wasn't about a building. It was about everyone multiplying who they were everywhere they were all the time. Now, here's a big thing that I began to look at. I'm going to share something that Jesus said, and it's always bothered me. Jesus made this statement right before he went to the cross. He said, when the Son of Man, that's him, comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit upon his glorious throne. In other words, when Jesus returns. And all the nations will be gathered in his presence, and he'll separate the people as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Now, we're not getting too deep into theology here. Don't be thinking heaven, hell. Don't be thinking that. But Jesus is saying there's a distinction between the people that are mine and the people that aren't necessarily doing what I want them to do. Okay? It says he'll place the sheep at his right and the goats at his left. And the king, that's him, will say to those on his right, these are the sheep. These are the people who are doing the thing that Jesus wants his people to do. He said, come you, blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world, for I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me. I have always hated these verses. I've always hated it. I grew up church boy. The way that you please God is you go to church and you teach his word and you worship him. I was always in the band. People that are in the band think the way that you reach God is by playing the guitar. God wants to hear me play the guitar. That's what you do. You sing and you gather and you worship. And I never did like these because it felt to me like that this was somehow works-based. And I was all about the grace of God. That somehow Jesus is saying, you got to go do stuff in order to get to heaven. But that's not what he's saying. And I finally decided I can't ignore these for the rest of my life. This is what Jesus is saying. He goes on and says that these righteous ones will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? I submit to you that these people are actually saying, who are you? What do you mean? When did we don't even know who you are. And the king will say, I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. Now, I don't know about the whole eternal destiny thing, and I'm not here to address heaven or hell, who's in or who's out. But Jesus here makes it really, really clear that the thing that determines to him if you belong to him and you're pleasing him and you're doing things for and to him is how you treat, how you help, how you recognize that there are people all around you that aren't in your building, that aren't worshiping with you, but they're sick and they're in prison and they have some sort of need. They're in your community and they don't know me, but you saw them and I took that personally. And that if you really, really want to please me, and it's not doing it out of, okay, got to add this to my list. soccer, job, promotion, go to prison, visit the sick. No, it's not that. It's simply changing a mindset to realize how much God loves us. And maybe, just maybe, we're focusing our energy and effort in an area that's not as effective in doing what Jesus wanted to begin with. So that's kind of the reasoning behind some of the things that I'm talking about, is that Jesus went around doing good things. Now, like I said, this isn't a sermon or anything, but here's something that if you haven't read this book, this is a book, Know What You're For. It's by Jeff Henderson. I would really, really love it if in between soccer practice, at soccer practice, while you're watching the soccer game, just keep yelling, "Go, go," while you're reading. They'll never know. Read this book, because this book is a sort of a central thing about who we want to be as an organization. We want our community to know that we are for them, because that's what Jesus did when he came to this earth. People knew and recognized. People didn't come to listen to Jesus. Jesus in his earthly ministry, and then his followers in the way that they gathered people that were outsiders. They didn't gather and get excited about this Jesus thing because it was such an amazing church service. They saw something different in the individuals that were in the marketplace and were in the schools and were at their jobs. These individuals that were out actually caring for, doing good in their community, and it changed them. I've often wondered, because theologically, I love theology, I've always tried to figure out how in the world did they get the Gentile people to follow Jesus with this message. Okay, there's this poor peasant carpenter. He lived in Judea, the armpit of the Roman Empire, and they killed him. Would you like to be part of our group? I mean, that's their story. Except they had this whole thing, and he rose from the dead. And to the Gentile Greek people, when Paul tried to tell that in Athens, the Athens people went, "You're absolutely crazy. It was really cool what you were talking about till you got to this whole rise from the dead thing, but you're nuts." How in the world did eventually millions of people join these small little groups of Jesus followers? Because they felt something from them. They were changed by their love. The people that were following Jesus had been revolutionized by how much God loved them. And they showed it in their everyday life. Everyone did, not just people on a stage at a meeting place one day a week. And you'll hear us talk a lot about For Pulaski. And I'm going to talk for about 2 more minutes. The band's going to come sing. Then I'm going to talk some more, and we'll be done. But this word church, the word church has a lot of baggage that's attached with it. How many of you were raised in a church? Or you went to church some before today? When you were raised in church, how many of you have some bad experiences? Do you have friends that have ever talked to you about the bad experiences they've had at church? How many of you? Do you guys think that there are people out there that are waiting for you to come to them and say, "Hey, Charlie, you want to come to church with me?" Do you think Charlie's going, "Church? Like you're gonna stand and sing songs I don't know, and then a guy's gonna tell me how bad I am, and that I'm probably gonna go to hell if I don't believe what he says today, and maybe I'll die in a car wreck"? That's what you mean? Why didn't you tell me? Of course, I would love that. Who would love that? I actually would love that, but except for some of the preaching parts. But church has so much baggage with it. That's why we've said what we're talking about isn't church. Jesus didn't use the word church. He used the word ecclesia. He said, "Upon this rock I'll build my church." Ecclesia is a group of people, a gathering of people that are united behind a common identity and purpose. The word church came from a German word, Kirch, which simply means a building where everybody worships. And that's not what we are. This new thing that we're talking about, it's not church, it's a community movement. It's our mission to share Jesus by all kinds of means, and meeting in a large group, and I'm just catching everybody up, meeting in a large group in a building will be one tool, and we'll use that tool differently. We'll make that tool better, but we won't use it all the time. But it will be one thing that we do in order to reach people in this community. But think quality over quantity. Not every Sunday, not just another Sunday. When we get together on a Sunday, it will be amazing. It'll be something that Charlie will want to actually attend, and then there will be other groups and activities that Charlie can get plugged into. So I'm going to, band, you can sort of come out whenever you want to, and we will, you don't have to be that excited. I mean, I'm glad that you like the band. And then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more and talk about some practical things that are coming up that you can get involved in.
The road that you paid me, the price that you paid me, and the life that you gave me. Say I never felt this love. Say I didn't have enough. I tried till you fill me up. They're gonna see what you are to me, and we're gonna cause up a scene like. For sure, I didn't know that this would fall through. Can't give it all, gave it a shot soon as I called you. Just to see what you say was for me anyway. And you got me with faith I cannot give away. I never thought that I'd let you in, but love covers a multitude of sins. And that's just crazy. The road that you paid me, and the price that you paid me, and the life that you gave me. Say I never felt this love. Say I didn't have enough. I tried till you fill me up. They're gonna see what you are to me, and we're gonna cause up a scene like.
Why?
I don't know what you do in COVID. Turn and wave at somebody? I don't know. Give them an air high five. Okay, you can sit down. Erica, take me to slide number 40. Well, yeah, that's a good one. What's the next one? Maybe it's 41. Oh, here, I can see where we are now. But this is very true. This is the question I kept asking myself. Has church become an obstacle to disciple making when there's so much that we need to be doing for our community but it's too exhausting because we have to be in church on Sunday. So years ago, I read this book. I need to turn this on. It's by Jim Collins called Good to Great. Leaders are readers. If you want to be a leader, this is a great book to read. In Good to Great, he talks about these corporations that used to be kind of good, but then they changed some things to become great. In order to go from good to great, you have to, and that's what I'm doing, I'm inviting us to let go of something good. What Stonebrooke has been, what Stonebrooke has done is very good, nothing wrong with it, but I believe there's something more that Jesus always wanted us to do. And so I won't necessarily go through all these. There's so many scriptures about when God comes along and says, I want to do something new, he has to, first of all, get his people to forget what happened in the past. Forget the former things. I'm doing a new thing. I'll make a way in the wilderness, in the wasteland. And that's where we want to reach people. We want to go into the wilderness, into the wasteland of our community and reach those people. Paul says, I want to know Jesus. And then he says one way that he knows him is not, he hasn't already reached it. He doesn't just rest on his laurels. He says, I focus on one thing, forgetting the past, looking forward to what lies ahead. I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize. And here's the thing. Here's something I don't think Christians realize. There will come a day, and I'm aware of this day almost every day, and I wish Christians would. I don't mention it much because preachers have used it incorrectly for so many years to bring guilt and condemnation to people. But there will come a day, and I always see it as standing in line. We probably won't stand in line, but I always see it as standing in line, and Jesus is kind of sitting here or standing there, and there will come a time when he'll say to you, next. And because the New Testament teaches that we will all give an account. Now, it's not an account for whether or not we believe in Jesus or whether or not we get in. But every single human being that is born on this earth has been given gifts and abilities and has been given an assignment. And there are heavenly prizes. There are heavenly rewards. There are having Jesus look at you and say, you did good. Every single one of us will stand before him someday. And I want all of us here to realize that and get involved in actually accomplishing these things that Jesus said for us to do. And he said it this way. He said, nobody puts new wine into old wineskins. I think we need to realize, as that slide said before, that we are not being effective at reaching and accomplishing what Jesus told us to do. And that there's a new wineskin, there's a new model, a new way to do it. And so this is what we said last time. There's 55,000 people in Pulaski County. And by the way, and this is what I really want you to hear my heart on this. I love every single person at Stonebrooke. Man, do I love you guys. And Jeannie and I have done our best to show that love, to give ourselves, to sacrifice wherever is necessary. A lot of people have done the same. And with this new thing that we're doing, some people are going to be like, no, I got to go to church every Sunday. Well, there's 120 of them. You could go to a different church every Sunday for 2 years and not get to all of them. There are 120 churches that are focused on doing what they need to do on a Sunday, and we're just going to do things a little bit differently. But doesn't mean you don't have a place to go. If that's what your goal is, we love you. Stonebrooke is probably going to be really not comfortable for you from now on. But if you are really, really interested, because I want people to know Jesus. And whatever it takes, I'm going to do that. And I've thought, in the time when I said I kind of went away and talked to God, I said to him over and over, just number one, leave me alone. Let me go. I'll go every night of the week and I'll sit in a different bar and I will talk to people about Jesus. I'll answer their questions. I love to talk about Jesus. That's all I want to do. Man, and I hate it that people misunderstand him. And I could spend all day, every day, answering people's questions about who Jesus is and saying, well, no, that's not really correct. Here's what it says. Here's who Jesus is. I love to do that. But I believe Jesus put a plan in place where this gathering of people would multiply. I can never multiply. But the Apostle Paul, for example, told Timothy, he said, commit what you know to other people who will be able to commit what they now know to other people who will be able to commit. God is the first person with a pyramid scheme. It's what it is. He wants to multiply it. And so that's why I want to get other people involved. Now, our market is these other 40,000. What did I do? Oh, it went to a different place. There it is. Our market is these 40,000 people. And like I said last time, all Stonebrooke has been able to do, I know I'm repeating a lot, but most of you weren't here. And if we, just using the building, every one of those people, by the way, represents 500 people. So you get to what the graphic is about. Every one of those little stick guys, if we had the building jam-packed, 2 services on a Sunday, all we could ever do is reach 1,500 people, and there's 40,000. Our current model is limited and ineffective. Now, here you have all these 40,000 people, and you see the little green guy? Can you see him? How can we, this is the part I don't know how to do. I don't have some revelation here. I'm just presenting the problem. How can we turn that green guy into another green guy over there, into that guy multiplies for these other green guys? How can, little by little, we, without them ever coming into a building, how can we change our mindset to where these people, we need to just settle it? I wish churches would admit it, because I went to churches my entire life and they said, we're trying to reach the world. I don't know if you guys, it may be something that I did. I don't know if I turned my clock off. If I did, I'm sorry. But it doesn't bother me. I can talk all day. But how do we churches said we're trying to reach everybody, but they didn't mean that, because if everybody showed up, they couldn't do anything with them. How can we, as a group, go into those 40,000 people and disciple them, get them, because this is what the early church did. They met in homes. They met in the marketplace. They met in just local gathering places down by the lake, out in the middle of a field. How did the earliest disciples reach the world? Not by saying, tell you what, if we build a big enough building, we can get them there. And they didn't have a southern accent. They didn't sound redneck. But they said, we're just going to go wherever we are, and we're going to invite a few people over to our house, or we're going to go down to the park, and we're going to meet there. How do we get to where the whole thing is green? And that's my goal. It's probably a goal that is unreachable, but that's too bad. We're going to reach it anyway. Where Pulaski County disappeared. What happened? There they are. I want to turn this whole community completely green. So now how do I go to the next one? So what we're going to be is a hybrid. Think hybrid. We're going to meet in person. We're going to do some things online and virtually. We're going to be a place that resources groups. And here's some things that I'm just going to throw out there. And I want you, let me stop, in fact, right here. Do you guys have questions at the moment? That you just stop and say, hey, I have a question that I don't understand what's going on. Because I want to give you time to ask some questions today. Nobody? Okay. If you think of questions, here's something that I'm just throwing out there, and I don't know. I don't know if it works. Take me to the calendar, and we'll come back to this. Because I don't think I did a great job explaining this last time, and probably not doing a good job this time. In fact, let me just go. to where we can get up close. So this is kind of actually what's happening in March, but this is an example of what would happen on a typical March. If we were already started and we were in full swing, the new type of Stonebrooke, we would be meeting here on this Sunday, but it wouldn't be a church service. It would be the Super Crazy Crazy Show. It would be a party for the community, and I won't describe everything that would happen, but it would just be a really, really fun thing before, during, and after, and I would definitely talk about Jesus. I would explain who Jesus is. It's not that we're not going to talk about Jesus. It's when you say it's a church service, oh, so you're going to sing 3 or 4 songs, you're going to take an offering, and the guy's going to talk. No, it'll be different than that, much more than that, but it's an in-person meeting. But the next 2 Sundays, because it's spring break, we would not meet at all. And that's what will happen this March as well. Now, I have a thing I can point. Look at that. On March 27th, we're going to little by little start revealing what Stonebrooke is to the community. On March 27th, we will have a community event here. It will be inside and outside. It will be really, really large. There's a petting zoo. There's bounce houses everywhere, inside and outside. There's a obstacle course. There's a hayride, for some reason, in the spring. There are multiple egg hunts. We're giving away a 65-inch TV. We're giving away a Nintendo Switch. There's Carnival Games in here. What am I missing, Caleb? There's just stuff going on. Didn't I mention the petting zoo? There's 16 animals in the petting zoo. We don't know if they're dangerous or poisonous or not. They're coming from St. Louis. But it's an event just for the community. It won't cost anything. It's just to show them that we care about them. That's what we want to do. In fact, help me, Erica, go to the slide where it starts with care. Here is basically our plan. We want to actually care for our community. Not just to get them to come to church on Sunday. We're not going to pack the pews. We're not trying to brag on how many people came to our Sunday service. We're going to actually care about our community. I don't think communities have ever experienced a group of people who are Jesus followers that just really like them, that just are really concerned about their life. And I want Stonebrooke to end this saying. I hear this all the time. There's just nothing to do in Pulaski County. How many of you have ever heard that in your life? There's just nothing to do here. How many of you have said that the last 2 weeks? Okay, I want that to change. People are still going to say that because people are just whiners. But we're going to love them through their whininess anyway. We are going to have this huge event, Bunny Bash. Okay. Oh, don't go back there yet. So we're going to care for them. Then we're going to contact them. We're going to communicate to them through social media, and we're going to prepare content online and in our in-person gatherings that are going to share with them who Jesus is. Then we're going to connect them into smaller groups to where you guys can actually share Jesus. It's more than me. It's, in fact, I'm going to skip around here, Erica, because I don't have a good plan. At the very end where I have the last 3 slides, this is what really burns my heart. Jesus, when he saw the crowds were outsiders. When the 4 gospel writers talk about the crowds, it wasn't church people. Jesus was down at the lake. Jesus was out in the middle of a field. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them. I want Jesus people to see people in our community. I'm trying to ruin you guys. I want you to go to Walmart and never leave without crying, and not simply because you saw somebody's thong coming out of the back of their pajamas again, but because you actually care about those people. I want you to have compassion on them. These people were confused and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Now, almost any time I start talking about reaching outsiders, always, and it's a valid thing, always Christians will say, well, sheep need a shepherd. And I agree. I want to talk a little bit about that. Jesus went on to say, though, He said to his disciples, the harvest is great. Our assignment is to reap the harvest. That's why you're here on the earth as a Jesus follower. Yeah, you got to have a job. Yeah, you got to be a parent. Yeah, you got to do all those other things. But your assignment is to reap the harvest. Did any of you grow up with a garden or anything like that? Have you ever picked corn or any stuff? Any of you? At my house, the harvest was great. We had this huge garden and another one outside with corn. And we children had to go out there and pick the harvest. This is what Jesus is sort of saying. He's saying, look. He's trying to get his disciples, look at them. This is what I want Christians to do, is not look at themselves, but to look at the harvest. He said, the harvest is huge. Well, what's the problem? The workers are few. It's been this way for 2,000 years, that the entire problem with not being able to actually reach people is the people that are supposed to be picking the corn are sitting on the porch waiting for supper. When you have the corn ready, let me know, because I'd love to have me some corn. When Jesus said, no, look, go pick it. That's what your job is. He said, pray to the Lord, who's in charge of the harvest, to send more workers into his fields. We want to get outside of just a building and into the field. We want to care about them. And here's what I want you to see. They are sheep that need a shepherd. But in Christians' minds, the shepherd is the pastor. And by the way, I'm not even a shepherd. I'm a terrible shepherd. I argued with God for a long time about, I'm not a pastor. I don't want a pastor. Some of you are thinking, I wish you'd have won the argument, because you're not. And I'm not. But what I am, I'm a rancher. My only desire, the only reason I keep doing this, is I want to convince Jesus followers that you are shepherds, that you have a responsibility to be a shepherd to all these sheep. And that when I start talking about, it's not all about church on Sunday, it's not all about feeding Christians, it's not all about, I want you to not just say, well, sheep need shepherd. I want you to change your mind to go, I'm a shepherd and these sheep need me. I need to be a person that is reaching out to others, caring about others, sharing with them who Jesus is, gathering at my house, gathering at the restaurant, wherever it is. I want us to focus away from official meeting places with official leaders and switch it to everyone has an assignment. Now, take me back to the calendar, like March. Ooh, that was really good. And just give me a few more minutes. I'll probably let you go. What I'm going to do right now is cut to the chase with some things that we're actually going to do. It'll take me some time to get this across. But here's what's practically going to happen here in March. We're going to have the Bunny Bash. Then the very next day, and what will happen with the way we do our schedule now, and let me sort of show you. There will be these short bursts of energy. There'll be these short bursts of activity where we're really involved. For example, like here we're going to be here today, and then we're not going to do anything for 2 weeks. You can just relax, recharge. Because starting March 27th, from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we need at least 50 of you here because we're going to invite the whole community. I'm hoping we can get 500 to 1,000 people here for this huge community event, which they're all going to get some things as they leave that are going to invite them to something else that we're going to do. But then the very next day, April 28th, this is where we get to be involved going into the fields. We did this last week, Operation Egg Drop. How many of you were involved in Operation Egg Drop last year? Cool. What that is we did it for 400 families. 400 families last year, COVID hit, and Easter couldn't happen, so we took little bags of egg-filled candy, a little thing about Jesus and what Stonebrooke was about and how they could get involved with what we weren't doing much then. But a little thing about Jesus in the bag. And we went to 400 families in the community and dropped off eggs on a Sunday morning. And since then, there's been like 3 other organizations in the community that are also doing that. And they're doing it as a fundraiser. 30 eggs for $30, 20 eggs for $20. But we're doing it for free. And this year, our target is 1,000 families where their kids are going to wake up on a Sunday morning. It's the week before Easter. But there will also be an invite about our big party we're having here on Easter Sunday the next week. And so that in April, we will actually have, for the whole community, not just for Stonebrookers, this will be the first time in a year where you can actually invite people to come to Stonebrooke for what we're calling a preview party. This isn't Stonebrooke is back. This isn't Stonebrooke is going. This is just, here's a taste of what Stonebrooke is going to be, then don't come back till Mother's Day to the community, okay? But then we do want to go into the community on the 17th because, see, we've done all this activity. Bunny Bash, egg drops, Easter. There's all kinds of people here at Easter. I'm exhausted. Great. Take the next week off because we're not going to meet. You can get involved for these short bursts, then rest. Then we'll go into the community on the 17th, and we're just going to serve. Various groups of us doing various activities in the community to help make our community better. But you don't have to come the next day on Sunday. That is our gathering. This is what we're doing as a community of Jesus followers. It's not, well, we got to do that and I got to be at church the next day. Does that make sense at all? Do you have questions right now? Yes, we're actually doing that. This isn't just an example. We're not doing this year. I don't even want to talk about that anymore. So here's what I need you to do. Do you have other questions, by the way? You just said no? Huh? Oh, yeah. If you have questions, ask. That's true. We get questions all the time, and I'm like, ask them when we're together. Thank you. It will be for, actually, there's parts of it that are for adults. Any and every person can come here. The egg hunt, Caleb, where are you? Okay. The egg hunts are up to like 5th or 6th grade.
We have egg hunts from birth to 12 years old.
Birth?
What's the outreach for the teenage group?
There's all kinds of other things. The teenagers can be on the hayride. They can be on the obstacle course. There can be, there'll be Carnival Games out there, Carnival Games in here, but Caleb may know more.
Dunk the bunny, right?
Dunk the bunny.
Are you talking about what the teenagers do at Bunny Bash, or just what are we specifically doing for teenagers?
Bunny bash.
Okay. I mean, there will be all kinds of exciting bounce houses, big slides, and playful games and stuff. I mean, it's of course targeted at.
It's targeted for kids doing Kids Rock age. But adults will enjoy it. Parts of it, anyway. You get to dunk the bunny. We'll be going around throwing candy all day long, shooting T-shirts at people. I'm not the bunny. Cause. We may have multiple bunnies. But Caleb, hang on just a second. I gotta write this down. Caleb, right there. There's a bunny person. So get with Michael. Cordell is going to be dunked in the bunny. Richard Oxendine is going to be a bunny. So there'll be pictures with Bunny. There'll be Bunny going around harassing people, throwing candy and T-shirts and other stuff like that. I'm going to get to you. I got to talk to Gabriel first.
If this is for the community, then why isn't there sections for everybody, not just children?
Well, it's a children's community event.
I understand that, but you're making it out for the whole community. So why isn't there at least something for everybody, not just for the children?
Well, at this community event, it's focused on children, but there are things that everyone can do. It would be just like there's going to be, like here's a community, oh, that's not a great idea. That's not a great one. There'll be times where we do what we call a community fun event. For example, here in May, we may do this that year, we may not. We're going to have a daddy-daughter dance here. Well, then we're not going to have anything for the sons at that event. You know what I mean? It's for the entire community and the dads and the daughters.
But those stereotypes don't work here. We have a wide range of communities that have a bunch of different ways how they
Oh, but we'll do things for every single person. But like if I have an event, if I have a concert here and there's going to be dancing and drinking for couples, there won't be 2-year-olds out here. You know what I'm saying? That's a community event for married couples. They don't have to be married. It's for anybody. But that'll be for adults.
But there's still that stereotype there, that lingering stereotype is still fucking there.
Well, I just think it's fucking okay. You know what I'm saying? I think to focus on a single person, and this is something we can talk about later, it's fine with me. When we have the bunny bash, you know, and we're saying this is for, you know, we're giving out kids, we're dunking the bunny, we are, you know, having bounce houses. It's mainly for children. To have an event for everybody every single time, you don't really reach anybody. It's like certain radio stations that are playing classical, then rock, then jazz, then country. You just make everybody mad. You know, you just dissatisfy everybody. But we will eventually have an event for teenagers, which we do. Like last Friday, we had a community event. We're just sort of working on it now, so we're not actually putting it out to the community yet, but we have an event just for teenagers. Well, don't bring your 2-year-old there. This event's for teenagers. We want to focus on them. And so that's what we're saying with the community event. But I'll be glad to hear your concerns about that. I don't guess I understand. Other questions? Yes. Oh, we're going to do that. After we're done here, which we're about done, go back there behind the booth, and we need you to sign up to help with Bunny Bash. Now, at the Bunny Bash, we're going to ask all our volunteers to wear a mask. We're going to provide you, well, it won't be like a bunny mask, although that would be really cool. Maybe we could just put a bunny head on everybody. But we're making masks for everybody so they match. So, you know, we ask if you're a person that's like, I just don't want to wear a mask. We might actually have a couple places with the outside events where you wouldn't have to, because I know there's some people that are like, oh, I have asthma and I have a hard time wearing a mask. We may have a place outside where you could work that, but just in general. But we need 50 of you. You can sign up back there behind the booth for Bunny Bash. Then we need 50 of you to sign up for the egg drop, which will be at the Bunny Bash or that evening. If you're not at the Bunny Bash, we want to give you your eggs and about 20, up to 20 addresses to deliver the next morning sometime before like 9 o'clock. So you'll go out and you'll find these addresses. We try to put them real close together. And, you know, where you're not, well, I'm in Richland at this one and I'm in Crocker at the next one. We try to group them together. So we need 50 of you to sign up for that. And then I didn't get to the other things I needed to talk about, so we won't sign up for that today. Yes, ma'am. Today. Oh, people have already, I just sort of teased it on Thursday, maybe. I just made a post on For Pulaski, and I made a post in Keep It Local, and some of the other groups. And I think as of this morning, we have about 150 families that have signed up, but we haven't pushed it yet. We'll start pushing it this week. But that's another thing. I'm so glad you brought that up. If you guys can join Stonebrooke's Facebook group, and when I post something on there, I would like you at certain times to share it. And with the egg drop, And by the way, if you want to sign up for Egg Drop for your family, it's Stonebrooke.TV/egg drop. But it's mainly for the whole community. And this is just showing you, hey, we care. We just care about you. We care about your children. So we're going to give you some free eggs. I am going to invite them with their eggs. You don't get eggs without being invited to Easter, which isn't a church service, by the way. I want us to try to catch each other saying, are you going to church? I want you to say, going where? Just going to Stonebrooke. We're going to love on our community. We're going to share Jesus with our community. But you can sign up for that back there too. Any other questions? I've kept you a long time. This is one of those things it's in my heart huge, and I have a hard time getting it out. Anyone else? That's what we're, and see, there's kind of a good example too. Randina has a group for LGBTQ, and that's its focus. Can someone else come? Probably, but that's the focus of the group. And if we have a men's group, men sometimes just need to get together away from women and blow stuff up. That's just what we want to do occasionally. Doesn't mean we don't love everyone. That's just what we want to do. There are some things I can only do hanging out with guys. It's just the way it is. So that's what we're trying to do things for the entire community. But number one, 40,000 people can't show up for Bunny Bash. But we're going to focus on families of mainly young children, and we hope that they'll just feel like, well, this is fun. I don't have any other agenda. And that's, I guess, what I want people to feel. And we'll just leave with this. I want people to feel, I was taught growing up in church that I was supposed to witness to people, but it always had a string attached. You need to go next door to your neighbor. You need to invite people over for a barbecue. And then it's like selling Amway. Then you need to spring this on them that really, would you like to talk about our Lord and Savior? It's like, oh, look at the time. And so that's where I don't have all the answers. Man, I don't have the answers. How in the world do we disciple 40,000 people? How do we get you together with smaller groups in your homes and places without people feeling like you have an agenda? I actually want us to just love people and for them to feel Jesus. I want them to feel who he is from Jesus' people. That's what I'm after. Is it perfect? No. Do I have a good idea of how to do it? No. But I'm inviting you with all its imperfections and all its confusingness, which is not a word, to join me in doing this. So, okay, that's it. Go back there and sign up to be in the Bunny Bash and Egg Drop, please. And then we'll see you here on the Bunny Bash and then again on Easter. And we'll talk between now and then.